Okay, let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to your favorite quarantine podcast.
Riffin with Griffin, yeah.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Yeah, yeah, yeah!
With Griffin,
Quarantine with Griffin!
with Griffin, yeah.
Whoa, 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 whoa! Whoa, whoa, whoa!
With Griffin, baby.
Once again, we back at it. And I got a special guest on today, a little outside the comedy community. It's not a podcast guy. It's not a guy you've seen on many other podcasts. It's actually an actor. He's been on the TV show Taken. He's been on Vikings. He's been on this new show called Council of Dads on NBC. Welcome, Mr. Clive Standen. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yes. His name's Mr. Clive Standen, and I'm really glad to have him on. Riffin with Griffin! Yeah. So, anyways, this is like a new person. It's like he's really he's a British actor. He's fantastic. He's been on a lot of great stuff, man. So I'm just glad to have him on the podcast right now, and hope you guys are enjoying all these episodes during quarantine. And once again, make sure if you want to watch me game, you can watch me Erik Griffin Gaming. I've been playing a lot of Warzone with people. I've been playing with Bobby and Steve Lee. You know, and I've just been playing FIFA. I've been playing a lot of different things, but mostly Warzone. So check that out at Erik Griffin Gaming on Twitch and YouTube. But anyways, I'm really excited to have this guy on the podcast. His name's Clive Standen. Again, he's on this great show on NBC called Council of Dads, and we talk about that a lot. We talk about his movie career. We talk about being, in the United States as a British actor, and a host of other interesting topics. So I really appreciate you guys tuning in to Riffin with Griffin every week. And here's another great episode with Mr. Clive Standen, and I hope you enjoy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program, Mr. Clive Standen. You're one of my first guests that I don't know at all. Just so you know, but it's still very interesting. And then you're British, which I didn't know either. That's that's like I have so many questions about that before we get into all the other stuff, especially Council of Dads, which is a great show, by the way. I watched it with my girlfriend last night, and she was bawling. Okay. I mean, she just was so invested in every character and just crying her eyes out from the last 35 minutes of the show. It's just really emotional television. But you're British, and is it the dream to come to the United States to be a part of Hollywood, or is it the fact that the British system is 2 episodes is a whole season, and it's not economical? If they had 15 season episodes over there, would you have come to the United States to be an actor, or was it always your dream to come to the United States?
I think it's just always the roles and the characters. And in the American marketplace, there's always so much more television, and there always has been. We only have 5 channels in England, and only 2 of them make really, really good drama. The BBC and then Channel 4, and ITV. But that's it. So like you said, there's 6-part dramas, there's 4-part dramas. You never get a 13-episode drama, let alone 22 episodes. So there's that drive. But it's just, and I think. I don't like to admit it, but I've been on both ends of the spectrum. But the money that you can put behind a TV sometimes makes it so much better. I mean, there's only so much great scripts and great acting can go. When you're leaving drama school, you get the chance to kind of be in some amazing big budget epic drama like Vikings, Game of Thrones, all those kind of things. It is every dream come true in terms of kind of being able to play Let's Pretend on a massive scale. So I suppose you get that as well with the American drama system. There's only lately that co-productions have been coming around from Canada and England where we've had the money to actually make these big epic dramas. So.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, because I've been enjoying some of these Netflix action movies that they come out with. Right now, I don't necessarily like the story sometimes, but there's so much money in it. And the amount of production value with the action sequences, you kind of go, wow, this is actually enjoyable to watch. So I guess I see what you're saying. That is important. You have this, and then you have this balance between doing something that's very entertaining and doing something that's very artsy. And I can tell you have there's part of you that wants to always be in something like Hamlet, or like you want to be
exactly,
right?
yeah. I mean, just like I said, I was on both ends of the spectrum. Like I was in this incredible British show called Doctor Who, and it has a massive fan base, and I love it. And it was a dream come true to get a role in that. But it's kind of known for being, the budget only goes so far, and we have rickety sets and kind of men in costumes and things, and you kind of go with it. It's a family drama. So I kind of did that, and you see that's a very, very successful show in Britain. But then I remember when we joined Vikings, season 1, we didn't have a lot of the budget for the show, and then we'd have just half of the bare bones of a Viking marketplace in the backlot of the studio. By season 5 and season 6, we pretty much had, the set was the size of a theme park. It could be Viking world. And you turn up to work and they put you in the costumes, which are incredible in themselves, and you walk onto set and you're like you've been taken back in time. So that's what I mean. It's just incredible that the attention to detail and the specificity involved, you need to have that lump sum of money really to put behind that, to have that detail. Whereas on Doctor Who, it's just as much fun to go to work and play around with aliens and monsters and things, but we never had that kind of that experience. You'd always have to kind of beg, borrow and steal and kind of twist your imagination a little bit to kind of make it work and film in tiny little pockets of warehouses and things, make them look like spaceships. And
now, do you have I feel like you're what I like about your look, for instance, is that you're in between being like the cool best friend, but at the same time being like Taken, being like the action lead. What do you prefer? I mean, do you want to be like, the stay-at-home dad on a show, or like the lead doctor on Grey's Anatomy or something, or do you like this running and jumping and slashing and shooting? Which one draws you more?
It's always about character, really. I do love action. I've always been a very physical person. I mean, since I've been young, I've just been throwing my body around. And I was my first job when I was 13, 14 years old was working in a stunt team at Sherwood Forest, reenacting the tales of Robin Hood and things. So when most kids were getting their first paperboy job or working in a retail shop or something like that on a Saturday, I was abseiling out of trees and jousting. So I suppose it's always been with me. But it's always about character at the end of the day, because I always say this, like Vikings is an action show. It's got battles and bloodthirsty action and things, but it is just about a family. And if you get a script and you can relate to the character, and actually explore something about humanity in it, that's what draws me usually. I always think that a lot of these shows like Vikings, Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead, all those kind of almost bleak post-apocalyptic or kind of like history shows that are kind of in another world, they're usually exploring humanity going back to their baser instincts, whether it's kill or be killed, or survival of the fittest, and that's something that you can explore as a character and as a human. Whereas Council of Dads that I'm doing now is almost exploring what humanity does when it comes together, when we're here for each other and what we can build together, and it still comes from character. That's what draws me. So it's not necessarily action at all. It's about spinning as many plates as I can. And I learned something when I was a lot younger at drama school, when it was about, you can act. If you play your cards right as an actor, you can act until you die. I mean, as long as there are 90-year-old human beings in the world, there can be 90-year-old actors. It's about having that longevity. What gets taken away from you if you get pigeonholed or you get typecast. So if you want to work until you're at 90, you've got to keep reminding people that you're more than just a one-trick pony. You've got to kind of go, look, I can spin this plate, I can spin that. And it's what I've tried to be doing. When I had Vikings, which is a steady, successful job that went for 6 seasons, you start thinking about what you can do in the off time. If I've got 3 months before season 1 and season 2, and I've got time to fit one job in, let's not play, Viking Werewolf 7, whatever it is, film that gets offered your way. Let's try and show people you can do something completely different. And I played this 55-year-old drunken alcoholic in the 30s in this film called In Like Flynn. A couple of years ago, I did this film called Vault, which is now trending on Amazon. It's just been released on Amazon, which is set in the 70s, and it's a heist drama. And I'm playing this 1970s kind of crazy guy from Rhode Island, and accent and everything. And I just like to do that. I like to just kind of keep showing people what I can do. So when anyone ever turns around and goes, what about Clive Standen for that? And they go, what, the Viking guy? It's like, but have you seen him in this? It's just, I think that's what you have to do if you want to kind of keep doing what you love for as long as possible.
Man, I told you, preaching to the choir. I totally understand what you're saying because, like, when my career started off, I'm a comic. I'm a funny guy. I was in a show, Workaholics, that was like I was this crazy character, and then like after that, to break out of that was so hard. It was like always like being sent for comedy, and then I got on this Showtime show, which I had to like be dramatic, and it was like so rewarding. And now now I'm like, I'll be considered for other things. So you do get pigeonholed.
Yeah.
But I hear from you, like, you do sound like an artsy guy. You very much, you enjoy the art of acting and that part of it. And I feel like, is that what you consider before you take any role?
Yeah, definitely. I can't say this quite a lot, but it's the truth. I got into acting to draw attention away from myself rather than towards myself. I get a bit scared when I start, I'm not a method actor in any way. I like to just act. I like to create a character that's completely far removed from me, and that's the challenge. When I was at drama school, I went to Lambda for 3 years, and what we were taught there is it's kind of like celestial let's pretend, which is a really stupid way of saying just you're lying for a living, so don't get caught. Yeah. And it's about pretending to be somebody else, and that's what draws me to it, about how much I can invest and learn a new craft and invest in it so much that people will believe that I am that person, rather than having to walk around and be that person. Like my dog has died, and trying to pull your own emotions, and that doesn't interest me at all. So that's where it really comes from, the art of actually studying.
So you're not like a Daniel Day-Lewis type guy.
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
I've got 3 kids. I've had kids since I started being a parent when I was 22 years old. So gotcha. I have to lock that character up, leave them at the door, and come and get down and teach the kids. At the moment, homeschool. I have to play with the kids and things. I can't bring my characters home. It would just be a car crash.
Yeah, you can't be taken at home like when you know what I mean?
Every car that goes by, I'm like,
is that what's happening?
I'm gonna take my kids.
No, that's interesting. I like that you feel that way. So that means it sounds to me like it comes natural to you. I think that it was something when you started doing it, you realized, oh, I love this. I can do it. It's a place you can draw on things very easily. Do you feel that way about yourself? Yeah,
well, I think it does immerse. I immerse myself in something as well. It becomes everything. That's the thing. It's the first thing you think about and the last thing you think about when you go to bed. And it really does. When I take on a role, so I suppose I do start to become that character because I look everywhere for research, for just copying people and people watching, and you just take in everything. It's kind of another thing that drama school. It's like there's so many different ways of acting that you can only take what you can for your toolkit.
Right.
You can't. That's the difference between the training, I think, from being British and going to drama school for 3 years, and then some of the American actors I know out here, they have one acting coach, and if that acting coach works for you, you're laughing. It's incredible because if their way of teaching works for you, then you've got the great acting coach. Unfortunately, just because someone's a great acting coach, it doesn't necessarily mean that their way of teaching is going to work for you as an actor. It's like trying to put a circle, shape into a square hole. It really doesn't. And when you're at drama school, you have 20 or 30 teachers that come through the doors over the 3 years, and they all teach you different stuff. And I got taught how to emulate animals and become animals that might help you. It never worked for me. I've never used animal work in my work at all. It's a lie, actually. I did some motion capture and I played the Predator. I had to do Aliens versus Predator, and I used that kind of like, he's half a panther, he's half gorilla, and trying to use the animal work playing the Predator. But the point being is, you take what works for you from all these different teachers, and then you conveniently forget what doesn't. You don't make a big thing of it. You just create your own toolbox. So when you come out, you've got your own way of acting. So there is no right or wrong of acting. And I think that's kind of where I come from.
Oh, that's a good attitude to have. So then that means that you don't necessarily come on a set with a bunch of Americans and just think to yourself, oh, these untrained imbeciles are I'm gonna, you know what I mean? You seem to have a good attitude about it, Is that important?
That's I think what I'm really making a comment on is you get some really bad actors, and they kind of go, well, my acting coach, and I go 3 times a week, and so, well, it's probably, and they used to teach Brad Pitt, and you're like, yeah, but they probably work for Brad Pitt. Doesn't necessarily mean what they're teaching is working for you. You got to kind of get out there and realize what it is that makes you act. You can't just emulate someone and copy somebody because it's bad acting.
Do you, like, when you go get a part here in the States, do you often look at it and want it to be like you're British in the part? Is there a part of it when you see that you go, or you see it and you go, oh, he's from Boston, and you say to yourself, oh, now I got to do.
all the time.
Is that like one of the hardest things about like working here? Is like you have to think, okay, now who am I? Where am I from? Now I got to do that all the time. Is it second nature for you too, or is it hard now?
No,
is it still hard?
Truthfully, I don't think it's ever got any easier. But I mean, it's funny when you think about it. It's like I haven't actually played a Brit in so long, and the majority of the auditions I don't get are to play Americans too. So I feel like I am. It reminds me of when I applied for my O1 visa. You know, you have to get a visa to work in America, and it's described as an alien with an extraordinary ability.
Yeah.
And as an actor, it's very weird. It's like, how do you prove you have an extraordinary ability? And what it comes down to when you're British on the form is you can play Americans better than Americans. That's what it comes down to. I have a form that gives me a stamp in my passport to say I can come into America because I can play Americans better than Americans.
Man, I gotta tell you, like for me, like sometimes that used to bug me. It always bugged me when I would find out later. Like it's like Walking Dead, like you mentioned before. The guy that plays Rick Grimes, he's like British or something, or I think he's British. And when I heard him in an interview, and it blew my mind. I was like, what? And then it's like the guy that was playing Superman, he's from Australia. This guy from this guy, so it's like that's like a thing. So you're, it's almost like, do you guys have like a club? Like, do you wink at each other when you see each other? Like, we did it again, we got him.
But it changes as well because, like, there was definitely a period when I came over here for pilot season. I was auditioning. It's like, oh, you're British, and we were welcomed with open arms. Then the Australians started coming over, and the Australians could do it, but they had the sexy surf bodies too. And we were like, oh, so there was like the Brits and then there was the Australians who were like, you're on our patch.
So you're like, man, these damn Australians are taking our jobs. Let's talk about Council of Dads. Like I say, I watched it and it's very, the pilot, but I get it. I'm sure that the rest of the show is not going to be as heavy as the pilot, and it can't be. Because it would just be too much, but I get why they had to set it up like that. But it's a very touching show, and I can see the potential for a lot of great dramatic moments, great character development, and great family moments. And so, is that what drew you to it? And what do you have to say about the project? Like, what do you think about it when you read it?
You just hit the nail on the head. The first episode, it has to be that kind of bleak. It's full of grief. We have to set up the premise of the Council of Dads, which we had to cast. Tom Everett's got this incredible actor that would draw people in and be this brilliant dad that we all have to stand up to and emulate. And it is full of grief, and it's about losing someone. But the series, at least this season, for the first couple of episodes, it's the fallout of what happens, but it's mainly a healing show. It's about joy. It's about finding joy and humor and who turns up to support you in times of grief and things. And so it's actually a really uplifting show, but you have to start it in a place to build from. Otherwise, it just becomes flim-flam and cheesy, sentimental BS. It has to be a place of reality, which is this woman has lost the love of her life, and so have these children. And these men are coming on who each have aspects of the lost father and the lost husband. And when you kind of almost piece them together, you get him back again, his values and his legacy and everything he stood for. But it's going to have trials and tribulations along the way. These are three men who are kind of like the Stonehenge for the family, but they don't actually kind of gel very well together. They're very different personalities. So you kind of have to, drama is built from conflict. So you have to start with some kind of conflict for it to kind of branch out somewhere. And then you start to see this family come together and gel like the modern family that a lot of us live by now. I mean, TV for many years has created for a while it was a real family, but I think it's quite a fake family now where it's just mum, dad, and aunts and uncles and grandma and the kids. And this is about who shows up. This reminds me of my kind of family where I sometimes see my aunts and uncles once every 5 or 6 times a year, or less, or sometimes it's every 6 years. But my friends turn up and they're part of my family, and my kids see my friends. And when I grew up, I had my uncle Stevie P. And I always thought, Uncle Steve. And he's just my dad's best mate. Not related to me at all, but he was always there. And he showed up when we needed him. When my mum's crying and my dad wasn't there, he was there. He was there to take me to play football. And, that kind of thing. And I think that's where this show is going. The Council of Dads is about who shows up, and it's about everyone being inclusive and being together. And I think it's more what we need right now.
Yeah, it's a good watch, because I mean, if I'm just being real, just being honest, and I'm 100 about it. I mean, at first, at first glance, you go, okay, here's another show, like you said, that's sentimental. It's just like there's a lot of shows like that, 'cause, coming off the heels of Just Like Us. You know what I mean? It's like, or whatever that show is.
This Is Us.
This Is Us. Yeah, Just Like Us is a documentary I was in, but This Is Us. It's like they go, oh, that works. People want to see that. People want to see families. People want to see drama. People want to see people dealing with things. But at first glance, I saw this. I was like, uh-oh, here we go. Multiracial. It's like, here's, there's this kind of kid. Oh, there's the gay black guy. There's the boom. And then so the first 20 minutes you're watching and I'm like, oh, I hope this isn't. But then I was like, oh, man, it really gets you in because it really is a lot of really great performances. And they did jam-pack the pilot with a lot.
Yeah, well, do you want? This is the truth of that, because that annoys me too in the pilot, because I signed on to do this script, and this script is incredible, and it came to me, and it read like a movie. And it was, because this man's ill. And the problem, it's not a problem, but it's just is what it is. Network TV has to fit in so many commercials. But our first cut of the pilot came in at something like 72 minutes.
Oh,
and it was incredible. It was the best version it could be. But then you have to cut out all those little bits that don't push the story on in order to get the commercial breaks in and things. So it has to be about 42 minutes, 44 minutes, I think a show is. And that's the thing. So it does run really quickly, but because of the formula, we had to have Scott die in the first episode because that's not what the show is. So we had to cut it. And, our showrunner, Tony and Joan, husband and wife, they described it as killing your babies. They have to just kill babies in that script because they were brilliant scenes that taught you so much about the characters. But then they have to rewrite them for episode 2, 3, 4. So you will see those moments, but unfortunately, everything had to get truncated into that first episode, and that's why it runs so quickly. It's so much information, and I do wish that they could have turned it into a double episode, but that's just not the way NBC or any network works. They won't do a special 70-minute episode.
I know, for a very special Council of Dads.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I agree. I know what you're saying. It's a lot. It sucks when they have to do that. But I think they did a good job. I mean, like I said, I'm actually going to watch the show. Like I watched it because you were going to come on my podcast, And when at first I was like, oh God, please let this be good because what am I going to talk about with this guy about the show? You know what I mean? But then I watched it. I was like, oh man, this is great. Like I say, my girl was just bawling watching it. So I mean, it is a good watch, and it's weird that you do have like a balance where something becomes too melodramatic or something becomes too like whatever's going on because I find that in American television it's very copycat,
Yes.
So it's like if there's it's a family drama show is working, you're gonna see 6 of them.
Yeah.
If there's a medical show that's working, here comes all the medical shows and the fires,
I think what might be original, I mean, I don't watch too much network TV, but I took this job because I love the script myself, and I didn't really watch that much of This Is Us. My kids love it, and I've grown to love This Is Us because what I love about it is that at the end of every episode, there's so many issues and subjects that are brought up in it that the kids actually ask me questions, and therefore it becomes something rather than at work around the water cooler, it becomes around the sofa with the kids. And it's like, what was Vietnam? What is a veteran? What is PTSD? And you can talk about it with your kids in a kid-friendly way where you're educating. And I think we do that because there's a lot that comes up, as you just mentioned, there's a lot of issues that come up that are current issues. But I think what is original about it, as opposed to something like This Is Us and A Million Little Things, is I think we have a lot of humor in Council of Dads, and you'll see it. It's about finding grief through humor, which I think is very real. I heard a part of the podcast the other day, which was I love my dad jokes, and it was a dad joke about, the dad says, "What is this?" And the kid goes, "I don't know," and he goes, "Neither do I, but here it comes again." It's an awful joke, and you don't want to, but you laugh because it's a good philosophy in life. It's like when you can't laugh when things are so bad, you have to laugh because there's nothing else to do. So when you're grieving over your dead husband, you're grieving over whatever, then sometimes you do find yourself making the most bizarre humor out of the worst situation. And I think that happens a lot in Council of Dads. You find this comedy out of the darkest situation, and you find joy. And I think there's not many of those shows that do that. Those shows take themselves very seriously, within reason. It's very serious. And I think we come out of that mold a little bit. If we were to take anything that I think belongs to Council of Dads, is that humor, where we don't take ourselves too seriously. And by doing that, I think it's more realistic. That you actually have these moments when someone asks you for the 19th time, "How are you doing?" How are you feeling when every day you don't get up properly and your husband's dead of cancer or whatever? You do probably find yourself making a joke about it because it's ludicrous. You don't just go, I feel awful. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you get mad. You would just be like, my husband's dead and I got 5 kids. How do you think I feel?
Exactly.
You know, that's a more real, you know what I mean?
Yeah, in the middle of the supermarket when everything goes crashing around you and the kids. And that's what you'll find in Council Dads. It's those moments of humour and bizarre, just truth that you'll look and go, I'd be the same person in that situation.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and that's because even from my own personal life, I'm a stand-up comedian, and when I first was thinking about doing and starting, I worked at a school, and this really popular kid tragically was killed, and they had a funeral, and when kids die, there's more people at a funeral for kids because they touch so many more lives. You know what I mean? The older a person is, the less people are at the funeral, unless there's somebody so prolific and famous. You know what I mean? But for the most part, it becomes like, less people are there, less people know this person. But anyways, I had to speak for the kid. I had to do the eulogy, and I'm in this church, and I'm telling myself, don't cry. Let me be strong for all the kids that are watching, because they even had kids in the church and kids in a gymnasium watching this funeral, and I'm just like, don't cry, and I'm not even listening to what's going on because I'm telling myself don't cry, and then the priest, they put on Ave Maria, okay, Ave Maria comes on, and I just Niagara Falls, I'm just crying, and then the priest goes, Erik, so I had to go up, and I had to talk about this kid, and I found myself being humorous about it. I found myself in the midst of this, I remember saying, I see a lot of his ex-girlfriends here because he was a ladies' man kid too. And I was like, he's going to be in trouble. He's probably doing, and people started to laugh and I started to laugh. And then I was like, oh man, look at this morbid, crazy situation where a child is dead and we're finding a way to laugh. And I think that is human. That is real. That is how we really are in situations, the stages of grief. And I do think Council of Dads hits on that very well.
Yeah. And I think that's what you'll find as the season goes on. There'll be moments of tears and you'll definitely cry and it'll be sad, but there'll be moments where you find yourself crying just because it's so beautiful and so lovely, and you'll be crying with laughter. It's probably the most inappropriate moment, but that's what it's designed to do.
Do you find yourself, do you pick parts now because you're a father, you have how many, you said you have 3 kids? So are you at a point in your career now where you're not just going to do anything? Is there a part of you that goes, this character has to be a certain way because I don't want to be seen this way for my kids? Is that a part of your thought process?
That's a great question. It really is. I always think about it. I've done it for a long time now. When my kids were really young, I used to get some jip from past agents and things for it as well, and they'd be like, this is a massive opportunity, it's a horror film, you're going to earn a fortune because it's a horror film, and they don't cost very much to make, but they make millions at the box office, and your name will get bigger because you were in this film that grossed $100 million. And I go, yeah, but I get chainsawed in half with a chainsaw and my brains come out everywhere, and I really don't want my children to see that. That's it, decision done. Yeah, but well, I read 20 pages, not into it. Yeah, gotcha. and I started to formulate it into a more I started thinking, I have the greatest works of Clive Standen, the complete works of William Shakespeare, the complete works of Clive Standen.
Right.
When we think about DVDs, I know it was all Apple TV and stuff now, but I used to imagine all the DVDs on a shelf.
It'll be your playlist.
Yeah,
it'll be your playlist.
Mind there's bad films and there's things that I took because I enjoyed the experience, but it didn't come out the way I wanted it. But I don't want my kids to be ashamed of anything I did by the characters I played. There was something I actually read quite recently, and I was in Vikings, and Vikings is very violent and things, but I have a line with gratuity, and I think there's too much of it on TV right now. And I actually don't think Vikings was. I think it was very cleverly filmed in a way where you didn't actually see a lot of the gratuitous moments, as opposed to some of the stuff in Game of Thrones. But there was one I read the other day, and I was really into it, and I was like, and I loved the character. And then there was just a moment where the character, wasn't the character I was up for. It was a character that was in the show, came out the backseat of a pickup truck and bludgeoned a woman to death with a hammer. But the way that they described it in the script made it very clear that they wanted to have the blood coming up the windows and her head caved in. And I was like, I'm just not interested. I don't want to put any more of that out into the world right now, especially what's going on right now. And so I suppose that's it. My kids do my kids do kind of influence me a lot. But even in Counsel of Dads, it may not be my kids, but just what was going on in my life. I don't know if you're interested, but I
am.
I got offered a lead in another TV show that I won't name because it seems a bit silly now because I didn't end up doing it. But and it was very different, big action kind of Lost type kind of show, and it really kind of intrigued me. I'm like, oh, that sounds. And it was the lead, and I'm like, wow, this could be good for my career, and it's a good job, and it'll be exciting. And then Counsel of Dads just came out of nowhere for me. My manager just rang me, and I was on the way taking my Jeep into the workshop to have it serviced, and it was pouring down with rain in LA, and I was on the way, and he said, look, I'm just sending you a script. Can you read it? It's called Counsel of Dads. And I was kind of like, yeah, I'm kind of doing my car thing. I'll read it. And he goes, no, you got to read it. When are you going to be back? Because the writers are leaving town at 2 PM. They really want to meet you. And this was like 11 o'clock in the morning.
They wanted you for this.
Yeah, so I said, yeah, and I hadn't heard anything about it. So I got an Uber home, left my car in the workshop all day, and I got an Uber home, and I was soaking wet, and I sat down at the computer, and 20 pages in, I was crying. And I rang my manager on 20 pages and I said, I'll take the meeting. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm going to take the meeting. I want to meet them. But it's because, and I knew that they wanted me to play Anthony, which is the best mate of Scott, who dies of cancer. And I was like, yeah, but I want to go in there and talk to them. I didn't talk to my manager about this. I was in my head on the way to the meeting. I was like, I want to talk to them about playing Scott, because I'm a dad of 3, he's a dad of 5, and I really relate to this. I think it's a brilliant story. It made me cry. I want to play Scott. So I got to the meeting, and I started kind of pitching myself as Scott, and Tony and Joan were like, he dies in episode 1. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I just think that's what I could give more to you.
And then I can do this other show.
Yeah, exactly. I could do the other show. But it was coming from, I think I can give you something special with that character.
Got you.
But I was scared because my best friend in real life, who was the best man at my weddings, been there, my oldest friend, he's been there for me all throughout my life. He was dying of cancer. He had colon cancer, and it wasn't looking good at the time. And I just couldn't see myself. I love the character that I play in the show, and I was just worried about playing it because, like I said earlier, I didn't really want it to emulate my own life. And I thought, what happens if those emotions take over? And I told them that. I kind of nearly cried in the meeting. I said, look, this is a brilliant script. I'm just not sure I can play Anthony because of my circumstances right now. And Joan said, well, I think maybe this is probably why you have to play this role.
I was just going to say they probably loved that. I mean, I hate to say it, but the moment you said that, because even now, you're like, I feel your emotions even right now. I feel it, man. And so if I was the producer of the show, I'd be like, oh my God, we got to get this guy to play this character.
Yeah. And that's what I realized was going on. Like when we were talking about crying when you watch a show, I was reading a script and I was crying, and usually it's empathy. You find empathy with a character you've never even met, and it's a made-up character, and somehow you find yourself crying because you just feel sorry for that person, or you feel for that person. But sometimes it's because you see yourself in someone on screen. Yeah. And that's what was happening to me, and it really emotionally connected with me. And some of the episodes filming, there was a couple of scenes where I can't mention which actors it was because it might give away the plot as people are watching it. But there were certain actors that I'd have to go after we finished filming. I'd be like, I need to have a stiff drink. I need to just sit down and let it go because there was holding on to some stuff. And not just about that, about other things as well.
I can imagine.
And I've never really done that with a job. I've had days where you've gone, oh, that was emotionally draining, but not days when you're like, you're letting your body go and you're going, I'm not sure if I can calm down from this. This is Clive that's kind of letting this, this is not acting anymore, and it was a bit frustrating to kind of give that. It was frustrating to give it to everyone else because you've got hundreds of crew watching you and everyone, and you feel like your whole life is imploding in front of people, and they're going, "It's great, we're getting it all on screen." Like,
oh, that was great.
Is it really? Yeah.
But speaking of that, on those same lines, I often say this is not natural. Like being an actor. Like, it is not natural. It's actually not good for your body, your mind, your soul all the time. It's because of what you're just saying right now. Like, when I hear about, like, the late Heath Ledger, coming off a project and being like, oh, man, like, depressed and, like, whatever it is, I totally get it. Like, what we're doing to ourselves to achieve those moments where people go, oh, my God, that was great. It's not always the best thing. How do you manage those feelings?
But then again, I agree with you. But the devil's advocate says, but there's kind of some kind of therapy in it too.
Yes.
Yeah, it's hard for me to talk about. I want to talk about it, and it's not because I don't want to talk about it with you. It's because I know that I'll give away a massive plot spoiler in Counsel of Dads.
Don't do that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what makes it hard. But there was certain things where I had put in a kind of a closet for for years, or swept under the carpet and thought I was dealing with. And then when you start approaching it from the script and you realize that it kind of makes you realize you're not the only one that's gone through this, and it's so well observed, and you kind of, it's almost venting as well. You get it out.
Well, I think comedy's like that too. Like when I go on stage and I'm formulating a joke about something personal in my life, that is a form of me like working it out. So I guess in this situation with this show, you got lucky. Because you have a script that is kind of close to, you have an experience in your own life that mirrors this in the show. But what I'm saying is sometimes, what if it wasn't like that? And, you know, it's somebody that has to get to where you are. That's the part where it can be like, oh, man, this is a lot. Because I did a dramatic scene in a show that I was in that I was like, when it was done, I was like, oh, man, like, I hope they don't have like reshoots or, you know what I mean? Like you just, sometimes you do a part, you do a scene, you do a part, and you just want to go, I'm done with that. Like, let's hope we never have to do that again. But this feels like a show that's like going to be challenging you all the time and digging deep. Like, are you're ready for it, obviously, or you wouldn't have taken it apart. But like, are you really ready for it?
Yeah, and I think more so for our lead, Sarah Wayne Kelly, because she. I think about it in terms of like the read through. Because what's so nice about it, to answer your question, is it's an ensemble. So when you go to the read through, we never had tissues at the read-throughs, put it that way. Nearly everybody would be bawling in every episode for whatever reason. And you'd be like, this is a lot.
Yeah.
But, well, lucky enough, because you're an ensemble, you go, that's the bit I have to do. That's the bit they have to do. That's the bit they have to do. And we bring it all together and you've got a brilliant show. But the linchpin that connects most of those things is her. So like, oof, every episode she's going to be in bits.
But you know what? You're making me think of something though. Okay, so as an actor, when you get a script of the episode, you know, because I've done this, I get the script and I realize when I'm reading it at first, I'm reading it as a fan. Like I'm reading it as like what it's going to look like, and I've been brought to tears by reading something. I'm like, oh man, that's so great. But then I think about the person in the scene. They're not actually experiencing that.
No.
You know, so then sometimes it's not as, it becomes not as bad if it's making sense to what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're reading it as like, oh, this is what the emotion that you're going to feel when you see it. But then you might be somebody in that scene that's not acting like that at all. You might be being an asshole, or you might be, being the sounding board for someone else in the scene that inspires those emotions. So I get why you guys are crying, because this show, like, it's so much.
Yeah.
Well, I hope, and it comes on. And when does it come on? It comes on
this Thursday. So our proper slot is Thursday night at 8 p.m. Okay. But this Thursday, which is coming on in what is it, Wednesday? So it's tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Yeah, it's tomorrow.
It's going to be on because they have a special Parks and Recreation special. So that's going to be on at 8 now, and we're going to be first episode's at 9, and we're going to have a double episode. So episode 2 goes on at 10.
Oh, well, I'm not sure if this will come out tomorrow, this particular episode. So, guys, you can go back, because it's on Hulu also, because I watched it on Hulu. So I think NBC shows are on Hulu. So, because I never know when things come on anymore, because I DVR everything and I watch everything on Hulu and Netflix. So then, so when things come on, I go, oh, that's on, or it just shows up on my TV. But it's definitely a must watch. It's on NBC. It's called Council of Dads. So you guys got to watch that. Yeah. But before we go, I just wanted to ask you, like, put all that stuff behind us. Like, what are you watching? Like, I know when you have kids, you don't have time to like get into that deep show that because you're busy watching Elmo and whatever else. And, like you're busy watching and Taylor Swift videos. But what are you watching when you have time to yourself? What are your shows and movies that you're watching right now?
Well, what's interesting is my eldest son's 17, and he's just said to me, he went, "Dad, have you heard of this show called Breaking Bad?" And I'm like, "Yes, I love it." And because I've seen all of the episodes, it's been quite nice. I've been watching them again with him.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
It's a perfect excuse to watch a brilliant show again, and you see it again. But for me, when I'm on my own, in the evenings when they're in bed, I like Succession. I think it's an incredible show.
Love that show.
I get blown away by the actor Jeremy Strong. I'd never heard of him before Succession, and I just think he's incredible. I think he deserves
which one is he? Which one is he?
Kendall.
Kendall. Yes.
Because like every episode, it's such an actor appreciating an actor is such a fine line. But every episode, you either you feel sorry for him. The next episode, you hate him. Then you kind of love him again. And he keeps you on that tightrope every episode, which must be so tough to play that fine line of, going backwards and forwards, the light and the dark side. And his relationship with his dad is just awful.
But that's the crux of it. That's what I love about the show. And you just said it perfectly. Like, I love a character that makes me hate them. Like, and then pity them, and then feel sorry for them, and then you just go, "Oh, come on, man, don't do that." Like, if you're watching a show and you say to yourself, "Why did you do that?" That's just like, a perfect performance.
Matthew McFadden, who is a lovely, lovely man in real life. His character, the husband's to Shiv. I mean, he's just. Oh, he's the most disgusting man, horrible, cringe. And then at the wedding, you feel sorry for him.
Yes.
And you're like, why am I feeling sorry for this jerk?
And then you want him to. He had that moment where he stood up to the dad. You know what I mean? And you had that moment where you like finally grow some balls. And I know what you're saying. That is really fantastic show. But you know what? You made me. Well, I have another question for you though. Speaking of a show like that, it's such a great show. You can get lost in it. But because you're an actor and because you're such an artsy, pretentious actor too, by the way, and I mean that with all sincerity. I mean in a good way. Can you get lost in a show still, or you always have that moment of like, oh, love that choice?
That's a good question. It really is. I remember when I was younger that I got really bad. When I came to drama school, you just analyze everything. Even when you like something, you're liking it because you're analyzing the actor that you love, and you're trying to figure out if you can see his choices, and and I remember when I went to the Odeon Cinema, which is the biggest cinema we have in London, in Leicester Square, and I went to see Moulin Rouge with my mum. I remember it was the first film in ages where I just sat and watched it and went, and didn't question anything, just let it hit me. And it came out and went, this has been a long time since I've just watched the show. It just reminded me of that. But no, I do now. I tend to kind of relax a little bit more. But
that's good.
But I'm a sucker for punishment, because if I don't like something, some people are just very good at just going, right, I'm going to walk out the cinema, or I'm just going to turn it off. Yeah. I find myself getting stuck watching it till the end probably because the pretentious actor in me will meet someone one day who'll go, it's my favorite thing, and I want to be able to go, no, it's not, because of this, and this. But if I walk out of it, you always get that guy or girl who goes, oh, it's because you didn't watch until the end. It was really good at the end. And
I'm totally with you. I'm totally with you with that. I find myself doing the same thing. And it's interesting what you said about watching Moulin Rouge, because what that is that's what the words guilty pleasure even means, is that you watch something that someone might consider bad, so you can get lost in it. I mean, I think that as an actor, you need that, because I find myself, there's no middle ground. So if something's fantastic, like Succession, I am looking at this going, oh man, that must have been great to film. Or I'm going like, oh, what great choices. Oh, I'm talking, and then if it's really
improvised as well. Some of between the two sons and the daughter, some of that stuff is not scripted. That's three great actors who get along so well, who riff off each other. And I sit there going, oh, when did the scene stop, and when did they start improvising, and when did they keep that line? I
know exactly what you mean. But then the other side of that is when something's bad, I find myself becoming such a critic, but like this. Like, I'll see a scene and I'll go, oh man, that must have been a terrible shoot day. Because I start, you ever do this? You ever start counting shots? You start to go, oh God, there's a setup. Oh God, 4 setups for that scene? You know, and I find myself getting lost in that, and I'm not even enjoying it anymore. Or like terrible lighting, or I'm like, oh, why'd they make that choice? Or like, why'd they do that? Or that didn't make any sense. And then I'm not even, but then part of me, the pretentious person in me, I enjoy that too.
Yeah.
I hate
the ones
watching.
that get me, though, the ones that I still don't understand, and you might be one of them, I don't know, but the people that get obsessed with continuity. Because my wife's a bit like that as well. But it winds me up when something's brilliant, and you'll go, it's brilliant. They're like, yeah, but his tie was in a different place, or his hair was moved, and you're like, so you're not watching the same program as me.
But you know what I do? Okay, I take it a step further. When I see that, in my mind, it triggers, that was the best shot.
Yes.
I go. The reason why they had it, because they know his tie was wrong.
Yeah, they got all the notes that say
they go, his tie's wrong.
Wonky, it didn't match, or the wind was coming from the other direction.
But the editor and the director looked at this and said, but that take he did, we have to use that one. I mean, it's just, but sometimes those things are so wonky. Like, if you think back to a famous one, it's like Pretty Woman, where she's holding a waffle and then she's holding a pancake. You know, it's that kind of stuff where you go, I mean, yes, you want to go, hey, just look at it. But there's sometimes you go, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's too much.
It's a lot. So I do find myself being like, what I hate is I watch so many movies, you read so many scripts, you know, when you're in the business so long, you know, you start to get like, you watch a show that's supposed to be a murder mystery, and then you find yourself going, I know who did it. Like, it's that guy. You know, it's like, you know, because, or you go, oh, she's going to be pregnant because it's set, you know, like stories sometimes find themselves being the same. Like, so how do you let go of that when you watch? I'm just interested because you're so artsy. I love this about you. So like, you know, you watch in succession and I can tell that you don't just enjoy it, that there's part of you that has to analyze it. Like, how do you turn?
I'm so jealous. What's that going? Why am I in that show?
That's another feeling
But
too.
then,
You go,
but then
God,
what
why did I get this?
as well is when you find performances where you want to be in it, but you can't find fault where you could do something better. You know, it's like, it's easy to say, oh, I want to be in it. It's like, yeah, but who would you play? What, because they're doing a bad job? Because that's why you love it so much?
Right.
So that's always interesting as well. And you're like, when you want to jump in something because you can do it better, or you just love something because you're actually, I used to call Paul Bettany Paul Better Than Me. Because I used to watch him and just be like, it's better than me. He's like, I can't do a better job than him. I love him. It's great.
Right. Is there, did you always wanted to be an actor? You obviously, because you started so young, this is like what your career you've always wanted to do. Are you living your dream?
I am living my dream now, I think. Yeah, but I'm not sure. I mean, I did start young, but not, you know, not the kids. You get these kids that start when they're 4, you know, and they go into theatres. Yeah, but I didn't at all. It was not until I was about 16, really, that I joined the National Youth Theatre. Yeah,
but that's still pretty young, you know. 16 for you to be doing this, but you've lived a full life. I mean, you started at 16. You have a 17-year-old. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like you know what I mean. You don't even have gray in your beard yet. Look at me. This coronavirus has got me like, you know, with this new look, and I usually don't have this, but now I can't go back from it because people have seen it. You know, if I dye it now, people don't understand that like we dye our hair a lot of times because of a part. Like they might say to you, like, I don't even know, you know, they might say to me like, well, we want you to be younger looking. So can you do that? So that's why I would do it. But like just living in life, I mean, I don't know. Am I vain? I don't know if I'm vain like that.
I'm doing that right now. There's every part of me wants to do the coronavirus buzz cut. And then I think I'll do that. And then I'll get a phone call going, yeah, they want you for Bond. Or something like that. I'm like, what have I done?
Can I wear a wig? You know, is that well? That's funny you mentioned that. As a British person and British actor, is being James Bond one of your goals?
I think every British actor wants to be Bond.
Really?
I think so.
You know, I've never heard that before.
I know people that would never play Bond and they would love to play Bond. I think it's everyone's. It's our only superhero, to be honest. You know, it's the one thing. If you did cast an Aussie or an American as Bond, there'd be outrage. Yeah, but I remember
we'll join the club.
I auditioned back in the day. I auditioned for Captain America, and I got a recall, and I did a good job in the room. And the casting director actually said to me, she walked me out, she went, "Well done, Clive, it was great." And I said, "Great." And she said, "But Joe Johnson's never going to cast a Brit as Captain America."
I was just about to say,
because they were looking for an unknown, and they couldn't find an unknown. I would be outraged. Wasn't an unknown.
Yeah, even he wasn't, because he'd already been like in
he's in Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four, yeah, he was in all kinds of stuff. Even though one of my favorite roles for him is Snowpiercer. I don't know if you saw that movie.
Yeah,
and Snowpiercer, whatever it is, but they're making a TV show out of that. Actually, you know, they did. There's a TV show coming out from that concept. But yeah, I think I would have been outraged too if Captain America was like British. I'm still upset that Superman was Australian. You know what I mean? It's like, come on.
Superman was British. No, Superman's British. We took that road. Don't give it to the Australians. I warned you about that. They got Thor.
That's Thor. Right, Thor. But we had
Batman. We had Superman.
Yes, Batman.
Iron Man. Who else was there? There was a few Brits.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if there was an American being James Bond, I think it would be outrage, right?
We got Spider-Man.
Yes, you've had this. What I'm saying. How dare you complain when all of our superheroes are across the pond? It's like, come on. And then you guys, that's the hypocrisy of it. Is if like Vin Diesel was playing Bond.
I know. Think about that. Let's just pause for a second and think about Vin Diesel playing Bond.
That would be like, yeah. Oh man, listen. I would be outraged. I think we would be outraged if they.
I think in Britain there would be a 1 minute silence, just commemorating Bond forever.
Oh man, well listen, man, I really appreciate you being on the podcast. We've talked for a good enough time. I didn't even know how long we were going to talk, but I hope you enjoyed the conversation. And I do wish you a best of luck. I think that the show is great. I'm not just saying that. I watched it. Like I said, I watched it last night because I wanted to know what I was going to be talking about. And like I said, my girl was just bawling, and I was just like, oh, this is one of these shows that's going to it really got you. Like you didn't think it was going to get you, and it gets you, and then you're just mad. You're like, God damn it! Now I have to invest in these, because for me, when I watch a show, I don't watch a lot of shows because I can't get into too many relationships, because it's a relationship. You know what I mean? It becomes like, I got to find out what's going on with these people, and by the way, speaking of that, with the coronavirus and everything going on, I just wonder, when are productions going to come back? How long are we going to have to wait for season 2s and cliffhangers and things like that?
Well, I think it's not even that. I think there's a lot of shows on these networks that they haven't got many completed seasons right now. All of the shows that are starting on air, they got to episode 7 or 8 out of a 21 series, and they haven't got any more. So we're going to see a lot of these shows that just stop.
They just stop. They're we're going on a mid-season break for 10 months until we figure this out. I hope we do figure it out.
Well, we got our series finished. That's one of the lucky things. We've got the whole season finished. So,
because I was going to say, last question though, but I know I was trying to go, but I actually have another question for you. Do you think that some shows, like a show like yours, Council of Dads, do you think they will incorporate the coronavirus in the scripts, where it's like a season of what do you call it, social distancing and quarantining? Do you think people want to see that? Do you think a show like that could thrive in that environment, or you think it's going to be we have to just ignore this and it's not part of our universe?
No, I think so. I was thinking about it the other day. Because I actually thought we missed a trick if because at the end of season 1 there is a kind of there's a big thing that happens, and it's we've been ahead of the curve. Pardon. Right. We could have had the coronavirus as our finale. Right. But yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting because we don't. Well, the thing is, with Council of Dads, we don't really do flashbacks. This Is Us does flashbacks. We don't do flashbacks. That's what makes it different. So I don't see how we could go back if it's unless we start season 2 with it. If it's still going on now, we could do that, but it wouldn't be it would have to be remember that month when we all were in lockdown, right. Again. Otherwise, we'd be inventing the future, which is not necessarily, because this could happen again. So no one knows.
Yeah, it's just really weird. It's just strange times. I don't know what's going to go on with our business. That's the only thing that I fear for myself is my comedy business is just shut down. All the comedy clubs are closed and all the live performances are shut down. And I wonder how we're going to get back to it. Are we going to see big scenes again in movies where there's 100 people in a restaurant? Is it going to be how is it? Let's say they're not dealing with the coronavirus in the script, but how are we going to deal with it in practical ways of shooting shows now? Are there going to be no more big scenes? How are we going to do this?
What worries me as well is just cinemas. Is this going to be the death of cinema? I love cinema. I know,
me too. I never thought that Netflix or anything like that was going to take away from the movie. You can't replace that movie experience, that big silver screen, and sitting with people. I won't even
mention the app's name, but it's being advertised all over the place. It's designed to watch movies on your phone. I just think it's just the devil incarnate.
Yeah. But you know what? These things have been around for so long, and people still go to the movie theater. I always thought that I would still go watch a movie in the theater, even if I already watched it on my TV, because I'm I want to go see it with the Dolby sound, with the the sounds coming from here, and somebody sitting next to me, and we're just oh, this is great. I saw 1917 in a theater, and it blew my mind. I loved that movie so much in just the experience of it, and I hope we get back to that too. So I agree with you 100%. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to answer you, because I don't know how we're going to deal with it until there's a vaccine, until there's anything. I can't see how they're going to start, getting these big budget things up where there's hundreds of people. Because even if you're filming in the desert in the middle of nowhere and you're going to quarantine your actors and crew in the same hotel, and they eat and drink and sleep in the same hotel, and they go to the desert where they're not going to bump into anyone. It's most shows you're going to be in a city street somewhere with where there's so many variables you can't control.
But even who wants to do that anyway? You got 3 kids. Imagine them telling you like, "Hey, we want you to do this thing for 3 months, and you can't be near your family because we want to keep everybody quarantined." Who wants to do that? I
just can't see how you can insure it until there's a
right. Until there's, I know. I mean,
it's not the case. I mean, I've been in shows where you're really, really ill. You're literally like, I'm the lead of the show, and I can't get out of bed, and they're like, "Can you come in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon?"
yeah, dude.
Can you come in tomorrow?
They don't care.
Not let's have 20 days off and lockdown, and let alone all the other people you've infected.
Yeah, they do not care. They're even like, I've been on situations where I've seen actors where they're obviously sick and they have to kiss another person, and they just go, "Well, we'll have some vitamin C." They're just like, they're just like, "Well, you got to do it. We got this. This is $100 million production. You got to go."
I mean, the biggest thing on the insurance forms for actors was usually, do you suffer from cold sores? Because if you get a cold sore and you have to kiss someone, that's it. You can't. So once you've got a cold sore, you can't film a love scene or anything until. So it's a serious thing. It always made me laugh, but I realized how serious it is. But I mean,
now, by the way, it's like
contagious disease.
Yeah, that ridiculous physical we have to go to where they're just like, okay, but that's all they care about. Do you have a cold sores? Now they're going to be like, I mean, you imagine all the things they don't ask about that could still be a problem.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And then just cold sores. Now we're going to be like coronavirus, cold sores. But I hope it works out. But anyways, man, I'll let you get back to your family. This has been Mr. Clive Standen. How you say it again? Standen. Fantastic Britain's own on the Council of Dads, and you can see him on a bunch of other things too. So you were on Vikings, Taken, a bunch of great movies. I really appreciate you coming on, and anytime you have something to promote, you have an open invitation. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I appreciate you being on Riffin with Griffin, man.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. You take care, all right?
Bye.